Um, all right. So where do you want to start? Maybe we start with what you're looking for and just sort of best way to help, I guess.
Yeah, so again, like with my background, like I've been doing digital marketing for about 10 years
Long
and
time.
I was a marketing director at a solar company and then I started an agency last year.
Yeah.
I have a few clients and they're doing well, but I'm interested in affiliate marketing. I've obviously heard about it.
Okay.
But apparently with affiliate marketing, like I don't have to deal with like the client calls updates, like, hey, can you fix this ASAP texts, chasing invoices, managing
Yeah.
churn, like, and also like not handling the fulfillment as much. Like, once you have a funnel that's working, you can scale and you're really only focusing on traffic and conversions and ROI
Yeah.
without managing the relationships. It's just campaigns and commissions. Like, would you say that's like the reality of this world, or is it like, that might make it sound all sweet, but like, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think first, the grass is always greener. I remember like we had this book business and I was going through all these struggles and growing pains. And I think this was post iOS 14 and I was at Traffic Conversion downtown and I forget whose event it was. It was at the top of the sushi restaurant, this rooftop bar. I can't remember whose event it was. So we're at this event and I was like talking to a couple guys from the affiliate world. And I'm like, so tell me how it's going. And like, and they're just like, oh, it's going all right. Like we're making money. And they're like, how's the book business going? I was like, it's okay. Like we're making money. And one of the guys is like, dude, I wish I had a business like yours. In my head, I was like, I wish I had a business like yours.
Yeah.
So the grass is always greener, right? And the thing with the affiliate game is when it pops, it pops. And so, yes, you don't have to deal with clients, and yes, you don't have to deal with inventory and all of these things. But at the end of the day, there are rough patches when it gets really hard, right? And one of the nice things about affiliate is that I don't think we exercise this too much, particularly when we got to a certain size, because you needed cash flow if you have a bunch of mouths to feed, which we did. Um, but like you can always stop. And if an offer is not working, you can switch to another offer, right? And so when you have these different, I don't know, let's assume for a moment you're running to an Apple offer. And so now all of a sudden I'm running this red Apple offer and it's not working, and they're giving you a $50, $100 CPA, but then these other guys have this green Apple offer that does better and they're trying to buy your traffic, so they'll pay you 110, but then it doesn't convert as well, so your EPC isn't as good. And so then you're like split testing both and just trying to figure it out. Um, I think that when you look at the affiliate world, I think it is probably the best place to become a really good marketer, like true performance. And the
Mhm.
reason is because all of those other distractions just kind of go away. I don't
Right.
have to worry about managing client expectations. I don't have to worry about inventory, overhead and HR and all that stuff. Just kind of depends on how big of a team you are. It's also really easy to jump in and test a bunch of things pretty quickly. And whether or not you're doing lead gen or you're doing gadgets or you're doing supplements or VSLs or skincare or tort, like all of those different things, it's very easy to kind of test. The hardest thing to find is a winning offer. Because if
Mhm.
an offer is really good, everybody's going to run it. And then
Right.
I think the other piece that I find it very frustrating is as a brand, as my personal brand, we never rip. And people rip all the time. They're like, that's just how it is. Like, I don't understand. I had a buddy of mine who had a long form offer and he hit me up and he had brought in a native agency. The native agency ripped all of his pages, changed the products to like name, like literally took the same image and then just went to their own cart. And he's like, what are you guys doing? And the guys are like, oh, yeah, that's just how affiliate goes. Like, we just ripped it. That's how it goes. And he's like, what are you talking about? Like, I hired the copywriter. I had the page built. Like, I have inventory. It's not drop ship. Like, what are you doing? And so for me, that's typically one of the biggest frustrations. But I think that when you're trying to decide where to go, in every vertical that you look into, you're going to have guys saying they're making $1 million, and then you're going to have guys saying they're struggling. What I have found is the guys that only say they're crushing are full of shit. There is no way, right? So any business that somebody has, it goes in waves, it goes up and down, and they might be killing it now,
Hmm.
but were they killing it yesterday? And are they going to kill it tomorrow? And maybe it comes down and kind of dips. So when you think about where do you start, the easiest thing to do is think about something that you know already a little bit, or something where the ideas come very simple. So
Hmm.
we still use this on the client side. So if a client brings us an offer, and I remember there was one that came across our desk that was around longevity. So this product helps you live longer. I couldn't come up with the angles. I was like in my head, I like generally they just snap, right? We have an Apple offer. So I'm like, how am I going to market an apple? I'm like, oh, apple a day keeps the doctor away. You're going to be healthier and whatever you feel unhealthy, eat an apple. But longevity was so broad. And the issue there was that it was at the top and not sort of the acute micro things. Um, so you've looked at a bunch of different verticals. What's the one that resonates the most with you out of the gate?
So, um, I started out in solar, so lead gen, right? Like generating
Yeah.
leads, generating appointments. And, through like, and again, in like that world that I lived in, I got paid when the deal closed, right? So I couldn't, just generate a bunch of bullshit leads, and bullshit appointments. And even when they had trouble sitting, I had like, oh my God, like, how do I get them to sit? Like, how do I, frame it in the beginning to make them want to go all the way to the end? And so, like lead gen, but like generating like really high quality leads and appointments has like been my bread and butter the my whole career. I tried to do e-commerce with a backpack company. It didn't work out.
Yeah.
And then from there, when I started my agency, I got like a couple different other lead gen offers. And the whole time I was like, man, I don't even know if I can do this because all I know is solar. And at the end of the day, I realized it's like, well, it's marketing principles apply here and they
Totally.
apply everywhere, So I've always had the most success in lead gen. And so when I'm coming, so I literally went to Chat GPT the other day. I'm like, what's affiliate marketing? It's just like Chat GPT answer. I'm like, what's the best affiliate marketing that works? And it's like, there's a ton. I'm like, okay, well, I got like max bounty and flex offers. And then I find that like, and then I find some companies where it's like, well, it'd be cool to do advertising for them. I type in the brand name, like affiliate program, and it's just like, oh my God, they have their own affiliate program. It's just like, which one do I do? Is there like one like affiliate network that's like better than the other when it comes like let's just say we're like sticking the lead gen, because I feel like I'm just going to stick to lead gen right now because that's
Yeah,
what
yeah,
I'm
makes
best at.
perfect sense.
But I'm not really interested in solar right now just because like the solar space, I just kind of feel like with the way solar is right now, I'm just not really like doing good by the customer. There's so much volatility like in the solar install space. They can get a system installed and then the solar installer goes down and they're just stuck with it. I'm just not interested in that. So I'm looking at, like landscaping, lead gen. Uh, there's career services right now. Like I have a client that does career services that's crushing out. I would love to get another career service offer, but when I'm
Mm.
looking at these different offers, I'm seeing like, you know, different EPCs, different CPAs, what I mean? I'm just like, all right, well, which one's like a good one? I don't know. It's kind of like when you first get started off in marketing, it's just like, oh, you have a $1 cost per click. It's like, is that good? I don't know. You know what I mean? Or like I feel like
Yeah.
everybody that's been in marketing has been there where it's like when you first start out, it's just like, I don't know, is that good? I have a 5% conversion rate. Is that all right? So that's kind of how I'm looking at all these metrics right now. So like when you're looking for an offer, are you looking for like a certain like EPC or like CPA? Because obviously you need that margin, you know. And so that's
Mhm.
where I'm kind of like looking at right now at these lead gen offers. It's like, okay, well, which one's like a good one? Like, how do you tell a good one from like this front end date like metrics that they
Great,
have?
great question. So two things. When we finish, I'll get you a list of some names, some networks, some guys that you should talk to, and some guys I know that run way more lead gen than me. But here's a pitfall of lead gen that I didn't know about when I first got into this. Do you know what scrubbing is?
Like data scrubbing,
What's up?
like scrubbing data.
Scrubbing or shaving conversions.
No.
Yeah, so it's amazing to me that this is rampant in this industry.
Mm,
So if I'm going to pay you $10 a lead, and all the tracking platforms have it built in, and this is no secret, but when I found out about it, I was like, how does this even work? So if they're going to pay you $10 a lead and you run 10 leads, they're going to pay you $100. Right? Assuming it hits the ping tree, there's a buyer that buys it off the back end. I don't know if you know how that. I don't know if you know how that works,
mm,
but right. So basically, you go, well, I need $12. So they're like, okay, well, we're just going to shave or scrub 20%. So now I'm going to pay you $12 a lead, but one out of every 10 isn't going to fire. And so now all of a sudden they just raise the price. Isn't that crazy?
yeah.
Like, and so I've done deals where once I learned about this, I'm like, can you please turn the filters all the way down? Like it's not working, or I need to hit this other thing. And for me, I always thought, well, why don't they just fire all those conversions so that you just get all the data and you just keep going? And really, it's just because they're trying to be competitive. And they may also realize that an X percentage of those leads doesn't get picked up. So let's assume for a moment I have one buyer for solar leads on the back end, and you're sending me all these solar leads, but that solar buyer only wants so many leads. And so you keep sending traffic. And so now I have them dropping on the floor. You see this in pay per call a lot. And I'm no
Mm,
expert in pay per call, far from it, actually. I never really got into it. But one of the things they talk about in pay per call is, do they have enough buyers on the back end to pick up the phone and close the deal?
mm,
Right. And so there are all of these kind of metrics to take a look at. And really, what it comes down to is really understanding the people and the network that you are running traffic to. So there's a network that may have a brokered lead gen offer. Well, the first network is scrubbing, the second one's scrubbing, and now you're on like a double scrub and you're like, how is this working? Now, a lot of it is because they don't trust the advertiser. A bunch of guys will come into lead gen, they'll smash a bunch of records in there, but it's trash, right?
mm,
So yes, you're supposed to say like, click here, fill out this form if you want solar. But what if I ran an ad that said, enter to win a free trip to Hawaii? And
classic.
they're super cheap traffic. They're going, nobody wants solar. So the
Right.
lead quality is really bad. And so that's also another way where they can turn the dial to sort of bring your lead quality in with a specific angle, let's say. They're like, it's good, but I can't pay you $10 on this because it's just not aligning. Like their intent, it's too clickbaity, their intent isn't very high.
Mm,
But what it comes down to is understanding the advertiser and knowing them. Because for us, if we run with somebody, they know me, right? Um they know that we don't win a trip to Hawaii, right?
yeah, yeah.
There were guys back in the day that used to run a lot of RTO lead gen, rent to own, to refinance mortgages. Like, how good do you think that traffic is? It's horrible,
Right.
right? And so that quality really matters. But if you have a conversation with somebody where they can basically provide you a feedback loop on that quality, it allows you to negotiate
For sure.
your cost per lead.
That brings up like another question for me because it's like for solar, for an example, like I just ran it so long. It's like in solar, I knew inside like my life cycle stages, it's like 30% of the leads schedule themselves or get scheduled, 50% of those sit, and then 20% of those close. That's like our benchmark data. And if we ever had like a bad month, I could go like, all right, let's see the live. Oh, we have a 25% sit rate. That's half of what it should be, And so that like it's like the feedback loop on the back end, it tells me it's like, all right, well, where's the problem? Because it's not always an advertising problem.
Yeah.
But you're the first to get blamed. But having that type of data where you can like point at and be like, oh no, here's the issue, right? when you're signing up for like an affiliate network, can you request that type of data? Like, hey, like what's your benchmark data right here? And so when I start running ads, is it better than that? Is it worse than that? Or is like, no, this is on par with what we want? Like, do you get that? Or you just like click the offer, from what I see, you get the link and you start running traffic and conversions to their offer, and then it's just rated, and you just kind of like hope that they close the deals, or is there any type of like back end that you how you can see that how this is actually performing, which you can kind of vet before you sign up with them?
You can't.
Man.
You can't. And that's where it comes down to relationships. So years ago, we used to run a lot of refi, a lot of refi. And we got hit up by a couple, what I would call big regional players or mid markets. So not your Quicken Loan Depot, right?
Mhm.
And they wanted us to run traffic. They'll pay more. And we had tested it over the years, but the problem is even though they paid more, it didn't always convert. This is another reason why you look at your earnings per click is really the metric that matters, right?
Okay.
And I go, your offer isn't converting as well as this other one, right? So you don't care about that. You care about your EPC, which is the blend of conversion rate and CPA, right? So if they're like $50 a lead on a CPL at a 2% conversion rate is the same as 100 at one,
Right.
right? It's the same. But what we found, we talked to this one guy and they were mid-market and I go, look, it's just not working. Like your conversion rate is absolutely terrible. This is the same quality traffic that we're sending to these other guys. So you take your traffic and you split to a couple different guys to test against each other. Well, turns out, um, I go, so who are you sending these leads to? Are you sending these leads to the 50-year-old who has been working these leads, for the last 30 years? Or are you sending them to the guy who's 21 years old, just graduated college and can't close a goddamn deal? Well, the guy who's 50's got a book, so he doesn't need the leads. So the
Right.
leads are going to the worst guy, which then they're
Yeah.
telling me that the leads suck. Well, that 21-year-old isn't going to be there in 6 months.
Mm.
And so even on the affiliate network side, it's all about understanding who the buyers are on the back end, how much cap they're getting, all of these different things. Because if you're a buyer, you also value your network relationships, your aggregator relationships at different levels.
Yeah.
And so for me, I think a lot of it was get introduced to somebody where, hey, Johnny, I want you to meet Steve. And Steve knows how to run traffic. He's been doing this for a long time. It's kind of like the mafia. I'm vouching for the guy, right?
Right, right, yeah.
And so they'll give you a better shot versus how did you find me? You filled out the form and you just applied. Like, I don't know who you are. Because the guys who are running fraud and shit traffic are literally just doing that all day long, just running a bunch of fraud traffic. They may even start with good quality traffic and then blend in the fraud. And if nobody says anything, they just blend in more and more and more.
Right.
I think in this space, it's important to know who you're doing business with.
I
And
got.
yeah, it's just like any business, really. And new client hits you and they just fill out a form. You're like, I don't really know this guy versus your next door neighbor goes, my cousin is looking for an ad agency. Here's what they're doing. Dude, you take that call, you work the guy more, right? Because he's a trusted source. That's what I believe is to be the main takeaway. The other pieces is you always have to be testing, I think, for the most part, some other offer. You got to keep them true. Because if all of your traffic is running at this one place, they can literally just start turning down the dial and you just think it's your Facebook traffic. It might not be. They might just be trying to recapture some margin. So there's a bunch of stuff in the back that happens that you will never see. So you have to figure out a way to keep them honest.
Man, it
Now you
seems like
can
anything you do, there's always some weird game you have to play.
Dude, there is, but once you get kind of dialed and you have the right partners and the right relationships, that's the piece that matters, and they'll tell you what's going on. I'll just be like, dude, we don't have a lot of buyers on the back end right now. So, for example, if you were running refi and interest rates drop, they're probably not buying as many leads because the first thing they're doing is calling their existing book of business that's in at 6%, and then like, hey, buddy, do you want in at 4? Like, yeah, they're literally hitting their old customers. So, but I know the guys are very successful in a variety of verticals, and there's different price points and different payouts. I think one guy that's excellent in the lead gen space is Jason Akatiff. He's great. They run tort, but there the payouts are really high, but you got to spend a lot to get the conversion versus, you run auto is way cheaper, right? A lot of guys run auto high volume. So you get a lot of data really, really fast. And there's only a couple big buyers on the back end. They all kind of roll up into the same people.
So do you work exclusively with just your network and you just don't even pay attention to any of these like affiliate networks, or is it very just because like you know how the game goes, it's like like there's a lot of like bad actors or whatever in this space, and it's like your best bet, even though it might be harder, is to try to network and find like people that you feel like you can trust and they can also trust you, and just like have that relationship versus just like going on this, max bounty or whatever and just picking random offers from there, rolling
Yeah,
them pretty
I
much.
think yeah, like everything, it comes down to an introduction, a relationship. Who are you? Where did you come from? My wife is an affiliate manager. She's got a team under her, and you should see some of these submissions that she gets,
Yeah.
right? And so they don't know you. You're just another guy that filled out a form versus kind of getting walked in and getting some attention. And hey, I spoke to this guy. He has a real business. He runs an agency. He ran solar for years. He knows what he's doing. He's new to this game. Treat him with white gloves. That's
Mhm.
very different than like, my name
Well,
is Ryan Davis and I just am interested in sending traffic. It's like, whatever. The other thing that happens is they might give you to the most junior affiliate manager who certainly doesn't know as much as the more seniors. And then as you start to build a network of both networks and or aggregators, you'll also start to build a network of affiliates and friends in the space. One of the most bizarre things about the affiliate world is I talk regularly to my largest competitors. And I said this to my dad one time who sold textiles. He was in apparel and textiles. He knew all his competitors, but he didn't just sit and talk to them. He's like, so you just talk to all your competitors? And I was like, yeah. Because really what you have in the affiliate game is you have a common enemy, which is Facebook. So you're
yeah.
constantly trying to figure out how you guys hack Facebook's algorithm to be more efficient and better than the next guy. And so as you come up in that game, you start meeting other big guys who are like, dude, we're like doing this thing and this general structure and strategy is working. So that's why like on these calls, I'm happy to share how we do it, but I don't share what we do. So if somebody on Twitter asked me, can you send me your best landing pages and ad creatives? Fuck no.
Right.
But I'll tell you how I'm structuring the accounts. I'll tell you how like we're scaling up and how we're testing. I'm happy to share that. I also know that what we do today is not what we did yesterday, and it's not what we're going to do tomorrow.
Yeah.
And so the network, I think, in this game is also really important. Where you're just like, hey guys, I don't know, is this offer converting well for you? It's not converting for me. And they're like, no, it's not. Like, try. We moved a lot of traffic to these other guys, or maybe is just opaque. Is we pulled a lot of traffic back from them.
Yeah. The So when you get an offer, and it could be any offer, and
Yeah.
do they does the offer owner usually give you some direction? Because step one with this whole with anything, I feel like, is you know the first obstacle is just finding that right message that resonates with the audience. It's like that perfect angle, just like really like figuring out like what's like that core desire that I can channel into this. Like, do they give you any insight? Like, here's like what we figured out. Like, we think that this is like the best route to go with like the messaging or like the angle.
Yeah.
Or is that, do they give you any of that, or do you have to start, at like zero with every offer that you get?
It's a combination of both. So first, remember that your interests are aligned in the sense that the more revenue the more traffic that you send, the more money they make.
Mm,
So they want you to be successful.
right.
And so I think that's really important. But now you're also asking an affiliate manager to do some of the work for you, which is fine. So like, what are the broad angles that work really well for lawn care? I don't know what they are. I can probably guess a couple. Maybe I'm right. Maybe I'm not. So, these are the ones, these are the general ones that work. But really, as an affiliate, you're out there looking at stuff all the time, trying to see what's running. And it doesn't even have to be in lawn care. You saw a headline for windows and doors. You're like, oh, this is interesting. If I rewrote this for lawn care, this could actually work. That's where the affiliate piece comes in.
Right.
And what's that jump off point? Um, so they want you to be successful. They will lead you a bit, but they will never be as good as you. That's
Right.
not their job.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I first got into it, I was having a hard time with tracking setup, which tracking is like always, I think it's the hardest thing in this game. But once you get it, you just kind of got it forever.
Yeah.
And I was like, how do I do this? And the Philly manager's like, I don't know. Like, I don't know how to set up the tracking. Like, I just don't do that. And I'm like, but if I figured this out, you're going to make more money, right? And they're like, yeah, but like, I just don't know. And by the way, I got a book of 50 guys like you.
Yeah.
And so you have that problem. But they will say these are the angles that are doing well for us right now, the broad ones, and then you can jump off there. But it comes down to looking and seeing what's running out in the open and not specific. Like when you're running solar, you would see ads, I'm sure of it, for other lead forms, other products. And you're like, oh, this would work really well with solar.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly like some of the gadget ads, you're like, oh, we could totally take this and twist this and turn this into solar.
Oh yeah, I did that with solar. I did it with I saw snow teeth whitenings ads, and it's just like these just UGC like heavy, and nobody was really doing that in solar. So I just literally pulled out my iPhone, and just filmed a video on TikTok and then exported it to run on Facebook. And yeah, I mean, yeah, that's one of the biggest things is, even though it's not specifically like in your vertical, there's principles that, dude, it's just like you can read books written in the 60s on advertising and all the principles are still true. And you can see those principles in every single ad that's crushed.
Right.
You
Yeah.
can see all those in there. It's like, oh my God, I never thought about using that right there, but that's timeless, obvious that's works.
Yeah.
Um, and so yeah, that's interesting. And one question I had for you too, I think it's a good one where it's just like, and you may have covered some of this already, but it's like if you could go back in time, how long have you been doing affiliate marketing?
A little over 10 years, I think now.
Over 10 years. And so it's like if you could go back into a time machine and talk to yourself 10 years ago and just give yourself like you just have a quick second, just like, listen, dude, do this. Stop doing that, do this instead. Like if you could just like give yourself some advice, like when you were first getting started, just like to just shorten the learning curve probably as much as possible. Like what advice would you give yourself?
I think there's two pieces of advice. One is, and I did do this, a shit ton of cycles. So a lot of copy iterations really, really quick. And we used to run a lot of Yahoo Gemini, which was native.
Mm,
It's like Yahoo homepage, like those native ads. And we would upload 10 headlines and 10 images for every campaign. And I would
mm,
have guys that are like, well, I only came up with 6. I was like, go write 4 more. And just take that same headline and write it 9 different ways. So if you went and asked a professional golfer, let's say, which how amazing was the Masters on Sunday, um, how do I get better? They're like, more practice. You just need to take more cuts. And so I did a lot of that and I trained the team up that way. It's just a lot of reps. So I think there's that piece. I think the other thing that I think of sometimes is, I've talked to guys, I was out of the game for a good period of time. And you talk to guys now, and depending on how much gray hair they have, they're like, dude, 2010 when I started Facebook, it was amazing.
mm,
Well, I got in, let's call it 2015, and I was like, 2015 was amazing, but the guys were like, 2010 was better. And then the 2018 guys are like, dude, 2015 was better. You keep seeing this. I've met young guys who are like, oh, 2020, 2022 was so much easier.
yeah.
It always gets harder, and and you have to up your game and costs go up and all of these things. And so I guess in hindsight, I probably would have stockpiled more cash and pulled it out of the internet and put it in more hard assets. That's
Mhm.
probably what I would have done. I couldn't have worked more. I was working 14, 16 hours a day, 7 days a week when I got into it. I loved it though. Like I loved it, loved it. It's just what I loved to do.
Because you love marketing.
Because I love marketing, right?
Yeah.
But I think I would have pulled more chips off the table earlier and invested them into stock market, hard asset. It's like whatever, and built a little bit more intrinsic wealth rather than some continuous bigger gambles. I think a lot about turning cash into gold, right? So you make
Mhm.
all this cash and then how do you turn it into gold? In terms of learning and what I would have done different, to be honest with you, man, there's not a lot that I would have done different. I personally left it all out on the field every single day.
Mhm.
So I don't have any of that. I guess I wish that I would have gotten into the business in 2010 instead of 2015
Me
when it
too.
was easy.
Yeah.
When it was easier. I'm not sure I can give that answer though.
In 22, I hear that all the time, like back
All
in
the
like the
time.
Wild Wild West days. I was in
Yeah.
high school. I graduated high school in 2012, and I just always think about like, dude, I would have been the most badass rich high schooler if I just knew how to just launch an ad. Because apparently, it was just fucking press a button and you're like good. You know what I mean? Like the way they talk about it, it's like I
I
just wish
know.
I knew how to like press the buttons. But yeah, that's great.
I think it comes down to work ethic is really the big one. Where I see most people fail is just not enough reps.
Mhm.
You want to be a concert pianist? Practice more. You want to hit more home runs? Go to the gym more, take more at bats.
Yeah,
An old business partner of mine had this great line. The longer you can stay in the game, the higher your chances of hitting a home run. And
yeah.
which just speaks to the number of cuts that you're taking at home plate.
Yeah, that's like I've gotten really, there's always like you're always like looking for that advice where it's like, like what's like the secret? Like give me the secret. Like you're gonna like get this one piece of advice that's just gonna change everything. And all of like the realists that I've met, they've all said, like, how are you so good at this? And it's just like number one, I'm good at selling products that are already selling themselves. And number two, I've just been doing this for 10 years, dude.
That's right.
Yeah. And then also the best piece of advice that I've ever gotten is from my so dude, I went to like community college for a year and then dropped out. Never from it either. I'm probably still enrolled in there, but dude,
Yeah.
my marketing professor was the CMO of Coca-Cola in Atlanta here. And he was like listen, he's like, no matter what company you work for or anything, they're always going to give you some type of training. Right. He's like, but it's 100% your job to train yourself, And I was like, dude, that's the best advice I ever got. And so that's why, I'm always like, like, I don't always have all the answers. But earlier today, I reached out to you. It's just like, I have no fucking clue what I'm doing. I'm just going to reach out to people and like ask for help and like kind of like train myself with all of this. And then just like that over the course of time, like just let time play a role in this whole thing. There are no like little secret hacks or anything like that. There's no like one piece of advice that you can give that could change everything. It's just like working your ass off, asking the right questions, and then just spending time in the game.
Yeah. I mean, there's luck too, but you only
Definitely.
get lucky when you're out there.
Yeah.
Right? If you stayed at home like this all the time, then luck never has a chance to find you. There are those offers. And when those offers hit, that's the reason you're in the game. And you're just like, I just cracked this angle or I just found this offer and this thing is lights out. And that's the only reason I think that most guys are in the game. And a lot of the older guys I know, they all started out young, knowing nothing.
Yeah.
So like I remember my first 200, 400, 600, sorry, 200, 400, $800 days. I was like, this is nuts. Like I remember that. I didn't know jack shit. So, but yeah, I think the network really matters. Your network of other marketers and the other piece is just knowing who you're doing business with is
Yeah.
critical. Um,
Are you a part of any like groups or like, newsletters, uh, like forums or websites or books or anything like that you recommend? Like, um, I know I like I scour X, Twitter, whatever. I scour it just like, going to the search bar, like typing in like, affiliate marketing and stuff like that and just like scrolling through stuff. I'm like, dude, there has to be a place where all this is just in one spot. Like are there any like anything like that?
I think most of the stuff I'm in is Telegram groups that tend to be smaller, invite only. Like I can't pull you in because it's just like groups of guys who've just been around. That's not the 400, 500 to get to those kinds of numbers. My favorite group today is Nothing Held Back, which is a lot of info product. But the guy who runs that
Alex,
just,
Nick,
yeah, yeah, dude, he's a wizard at copy. He's really,
yeah.
really good. I used to belong to it was called Ad Leaks, and then they had like a premium version that we paid $50 a month for because we had a company discount. We had a few licenses, and that one for me anyway, the value went down a little bit, and that's a little
I
bit
was a part of
less.
that too and ended up leaving it.
Yeah, it's same. And in terms of the affiliate stuff, I can ask around too, just sort of like what the best forums are. They exist. They're out there. But for me, it's just the guys I meet at Affiliate Summit and they connect you to this other guy. And, all of a sudden you start building this tribe of people. Um, but let me get back to you on that one. I'll find some for you.
Yeah,
Same
let
thing,
me know. I just, again, just trying to cut this learning curve down as much as possible. Um, and
same thing on the network side. After this call, I'll get you a couple names.
oh yeah,
To
dude,
jump
that would
off.
that would be that would be incredible. Well, sweet man. Well, I'm not going to take up too much of your time. I got a little black lab puppy I got to take out for a run.
That's awesome. Yeah,
She's
I gotta
she's
chop it
over
over
here.
here.
She's over here bugging me a little bit. But
Oh,
dude,
that's good.
I really appreciate you taking the time to. I think we've been sitting down for 40 minutes now, dude. I really appreciate you taking the time and just kind
Happy
of,
to help, man.
you know.
Happy to help. So I'll follow up with you shortly on those two action items, and yeah, and then let me know how I can help. Cool.
All right, sweet, Jason, you're the man.
All right. Thanks, dude. Bye bye.
All right, brother.